All right. Grayson, dude, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
No, of course. It seems like there's I think you're like the third Grayson that's been on here. Um, I guess it's the most common name going on right now, but um, yeah, dude, just like totally interested to talk to you. Obviously, kind of looking at what you've done on the running side has been really cool. Um, Not to mention running for such a honestly a pretty good program from the looks of it and kind of understanding the history there. But what I like to do is before we kind of get into all that jazz, like, dude, tell me about yourself, man. Like, what outside of running do you do? Like hobbies,
Yeah.
anything?
Yeah. Oh, well, first, I'm super involved at our church up here in Lexington. Playing the youth band, guitar, singing, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of something that I'm really into, and just kind of like, kind of spreading the word that way. This summer, or really this year, honestly, I've really gotten into golf. So, whenever not really on the course or out on the track, it's me and the buddies can go and hit the range, that kind of deal. Big passion for music. Love collecting vinyls. Got a guitar that I play upstairs that, I wish I could play more than I really can, just running gets so busy. But, uh, yeah, other than that, really passionate about hunting. Can't wait for the season to get started this year. And yeah, that's all it does for me.
No, dude, that's damn, dude. That's a lot, man. That's cool. That's really cool. Um, did you say you sing a little and also?
Yes.
Yeah, I've had a couple athletes come on here. They're in like the choir or one's an actor.
All right.
He likes to sing, and yeah, a couple in the choir, I believe. So that's kind of a going thing around here too. And then yesterday I talked to a kid. He plays bass. It's cool. It's so cool to see all the talent that kind of goes around. I think most people like just assume we all like just run and like that's the only thing we do. Uh,
Yeah.
Dan, yeah, dude, you're like stacked with talent though around. Next time you're on, I want to see the guitar. You'll play a little bit. Um, so how'd you get started with running? Just overall, was it like
Um,
a club or friends?
yeah, no, it really wasn't that crazy of a story. Coming out of or I guess like starting out of middle school, I'd kind of been one of those kids where it's just like, you kind of do everything when you're younger, but you're not typically, or you're not really great at anything per se. So it's beginning of 2020. And so my dad is talking about it. He's like, there's this running sport called cross country. And I was like, I have no idea what this is. So, but I mean, like, I figure I'll try it on this rec team. So I go there, and then it's like, we have tryouts for the first week and then COVID hits. And so then that's just kind of done with that. And then so we go through all of quarantine and not really doing much. But then once we're coming out of that into my seventh grade year, that's whenever uh summer conditioning started for the high school team. And so I was just like, well, again, like I'm not really doing anything, so I guess I'll try it out. And then um, you know, definitely was not good by any means starting out. Like, I think I was like one of three middle schoolers on the team, like by far the slowest, but just I guess fell in love with it, decided to keep on coming out there and ended up making big improvements in the next year and season after season, here we are.
Yeah, I think, and we're gonna dive into it a little bit later. But yeah, Lexington as a team is so it's almost like you I don't want to say expected of you, but they have such a good it seems like you guys have such a good culture there that just through hard work and like the system's already in place, you just have to kind of put the effort in and obviously you've seen some really great results in that as well. Going I want to talk about cross country last season
Hmm.
in particular. But first in 2023 you ran under 17 six times. In last season, you ran under 17 eight times. And then obviously the PR 15:47. Pretty consistent. You're a really consistent runner. obviously 6 and 8, two kind of similar in their own aspects, but obviously a really nice PR there
Yeah.
from this year. Um, what do you think? Kind of was there anything like in the summertime last summer that you saw that just kind of clicked a little bit more? Like things were just like easy ones were kind of getting easier, or just the pace was getting faster that you kind of noticed like, hey, uh, there's starting to be some really big improvement.
Yeah, I think not necessarily as much as like everything got easier for me. I think after my sophomore year, we had like I think it was five seniors on kind of like the varsity kind of line on our team all graduated. And so then it was left between, me and I know Jesse Oates, I know that you've heard of him probably. I mean, we just kind of looked at each other. We're just like the big gap of people that are like, gonna have to make a big step up this year. We're just like, okay, we gotta like kind of just take it and own it because like we gotta be the ones out here getting these points early so we can kind of, get this team rolling. And so I guess it was more of like a trying to take leadership and kind of trying to step into a role that I felt like I could fit in. And then, like once you kind of go into that with some confidence, uh the times kind of just start coming as you shoot for them in these races that you're like, you're putting yourself out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, um, and that's the thing too, especially being surrounded by a group of guys. It kind of it makes it. I don't want to say it makes it easier, but it does make it easier. Um, because they kind of keep you honest in the pacing and all that jazz.
Mhm.
Um, now we're gonna talk about it because I'm gonna hold you to it. State quals 30th place. At state 64th. What was like? I know the course ran slow, so like I'm not getting you on the time or anything.
Yeah.
It always runs slow. Everybody's time runs
Yeah.
slow. But obviously like place is pretty important. So what and I guess really like what kind of happened towards the end of the season? Was it just fatigue or was it you were hurt or kind of what was going on there?
Yeah. That's pretty complicated. It's kind of just like a side of things that I'm just kind of coming out of now. I got in a really bad spot last season, and I think yeah, I was just really overworked, and I was just not in a good spot mentally. But once we got around like the county and region side of things, that's getting towards about I guess late October. Um, I ran decent at our home course, but that's whenever I just finally got to the point where I was just like, I was talking to my coaches when we finished. I'm just like, man, we get like halfway in these races, and I'm just like, I'm done. And and I guess a lot of people just kind of point that towards like a diet thing or you're not drinking enough. But, that's never been an issue for me. It's something that I always take pride in. It's something that's like, I'm doing the things I need to be doing to be race ready. So we get to state quals in state, and I get to about I guess two and a half in on both races, and I just collapse off to the side, pass out. And both times were in good position to, get into a good spot in the race to score some really good points. And then in both races, about, a minute later ish, I kind of just get myself out of it and finish the race. And so, to make a long story short, kind of went through a whole battle with that during winter conditioning, meeting with doctors and all this kinds of thing. And I think it was a little bit after All American, I got diagnosed with vasovagal syncope. So that's kind of like in these higher stress situations when I'm really trying to like, you know, grind it out and get my body to perform at that next level. Like I just couldn't do that. Now, thankfully, I've finally got the help that I need to be able to push those limits, and now I'm feeling a lot better about that. But yeah, I get why that's kind of the confusion towards the end of my season, where yeah, that was a tough stretch.
Yeah, it was. But that's the cool thing too is like you see the issue, you address the issue, you fix the issue, and obviously you come out even stronger. Um, because I think like all of us have had it, especially in running. Running as much as it can hype you up, and running a PR is great. It you can go through some really dry spells of not getting a PR, and it gets demoralizing at times too. But it takes one race. I always tell people it takes one race to
Yeah,
come back and just destroy. But but yeah, no, it's totally. I'm glad you explained it because again, people only see like the stats and they only see that one side of it, so you don't really know. You don't even know. But
yeah.
third as a team, obviously, again, probably not the result you guys wanted, but still, like really a strong finish, nevertheless.
Mhm.
Going into states, was there a was there a game plan to attacking that? Because obviously expected to pretty much win the thing, but was there a game plan like sticking together, or is it kind of always every man for himself and just try and score the least amount of points?
Um, I mean, I was just kind of thinking back to it. Obviously this year there was that big test of like, the Dorman team, heavy favorite. And so we were just thinking like we're looking at the point projection and it's like, man, like we know it's gonna be a tough day, but if we can just go in with the mentality that's like today, every day, or everybody's gonna have the best day. And whether that's true or that's not, we're just gonna leave it all out there on the course. And, we really stuck that to it with even though we had some troubles late in the season with like not only me, but two of our other guys on the roster. Um I think, we definitely didn't really go in with like a game plan of like a, definitely not like a attack run, but it's also just kind of like, your guys who you've been out there with in workouts every day, let's like stick this out together. You see a guy out in front of you, you and your teammate, like, let's go get him, let's try and win this thing.
Yeah, I love how you mentioned that. You run with these guys every day. You do the workouts with them. An interesting kind of thing. Do you notice the other runners on your team, especially the varsity guys, especially? Do you know kind of their weaknesses and their strengths to kind of help them out as far? And also, I mean, I'm sure they probably know maybe some of yours as well to kind of help each other out. Do you notice like if you talk to you know number three runner, like, hey, he struggles in some of the longer distance stuff. If I'm with him, I can kind of help him out like that. Do you notice any of that?
Oh yeah, I mean, we definitely, it depends on the workout that we do, even for track or cross country, but it's like depending on the workout, it's kind of okay, this guy has set pace that he can stick to really well on this particular pace workout, whatever. And so, we're kind of gonna, let you set the pace. And then while this other guy might have a really fast finishing kick. And so, if it comes to more speed stuff, especially during track, we need to let him set the tempo and then just kind of like, hang on for dear life, trying to hang on with him. But yeah, we definitely go into more race strategy with knowing like, have a general idea of how everybody's race is going to go depending on the strategy they usually go with. And so we can kind of like, depending on what teams are in that race, we can kind of be like, this is how we can help each other out, especially during the beginning of the races, because I feel like that's going to be, really helpful.
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned like who has a good kick. Do you think you have a good kick, or no?
I think I have a pretty decent cross country kick.
Yeah,
Right. It's so.
yeah. I always thought I had a good kick or like a decent kick, and then everybody would always tell me like, dude, you have like the worst kick on the whole team. And I'm like, what are you talking? Like, I'm like, man, like I outkick somebody sometime. It's like maybe like one time. I think I maybe like outkicked one person one time
Yeah.
in a cross country meet, but um yeah, I always I had to go far out. If I was gonna start a kick, it would
Yeah.
be like 800 out or something. Like I gotta go.
No, I know how you're feeling,
That's
just like running for dear life. Especially like sophomore year, I felt it every time I ran in the 4x8. We would be holding the lead, and then I'd get to about 200 meters, 150 meters left, and then like it was just like right on schedule every time. I just like run out of gas. It just comes right on past me. I'm just like, yeah, what can
Yeah,
you do?
the pain, right? Um, Favorite cross country course? Do you have one?
Um,
It could be
you
in
know,
North Carolina, South Carolina, it could be anywhere.
yeah, I kind of go back and forth. I really do love our home course. Um, I kind of with depending with state, I guess, is a love hate with Newberry now. Mostly love, but because I really felt like I had a really good race at Coach's Classic, and also that's just kind of like whenever you get out to Newberry, it just kind of feels like you know fall, cool weather. Like that's when cross country really starts. So yeah, probably Newberry, probably be
Yeah,
the favorite.
Newberry. Yeah, Newberry has been kind of. I don't know. I've heard ups and downs of it, but I do. I understand you're feeling like I guess like driving out there, and it is kind of like a different feel. Plus, it's open field, really. You know, it's open
Yeah,
fields, and there's nothing around, no buildings, no concrete, nothing. So, um,
yeah.
yeah, I could see Newberry. I like Eye Opener too. I think Eye Opener is kind of one of those true cross country courses. Um, and then yeah, I mean, yeah, you talk about your course. I didn't think your course was that bad either.
Yeah.
Quite honestly.
We get pretty whether or not, it's definitely by no means a eye opener or a Newberry, but I mean, you can get some fast times out there, and I feel like, I mean, I don't know why, I guess it's because I always run workouts around there, but it might not feel like this for anybody else, but I always just feel like it's so much longer than the other courses, and so it just makes it that much more of a test. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah. I think but running on your home course too is I mean, it's nice because you know the ins and outs of it. You know, like
yeah,
you know where the holes are in the dirt. You know where the little things go a long way
yeah.
too.
That's an interesting eye opener. You know, we ran eye opener for the first time last year, and we didn't have a. I don't really think I had the day that I wanted to. It kind of dropped off towards the end a little bit, but also I kind of felt like whenever you're coming up around the turn after around the second mile, I thought I had a lot less than I actually did. And so it just kind of felt like that much longer to me. And then you kind of have like those two last finishing hills that it's just kind of like really takes the wind out of you. So I think going back into it this year, I'm going to have a lot more fun with it because that just kind of like, rolling back in the woods, and it's a really beautiful area. So I think it's going to be a really good race this year.
Yeah, eye opener is. I mean, the start alone is wide. It's so wide, and like that alone just makes a nice course because you don't have to get out crazy strong. I mean, you have enough time. You have enough time until you start getting kind of in the woods area.
Mhm.
But then again, it is like downhill, so everybody's going fast.
Yeah.
Um, with that, overall, looking back at the past cross country season, what would you say? Like, successful? Did what you need to do, learned a lot. Like, how would you kind of categorize it?
Yeah, I would categorize it as what you were talking about earlier. It was something that, me and my coaches really had talked about was just being consistent. So I felt like that was something that I'd always struggled with in seasons past, and so I was like, I really want to be consistent. So I feel like right up until the last, like, I guess two most important races, really was just like that kind of staying consistent. And I always felt like I was just one of those guys where, no matter if I'm having like the worst day, I can always be counted on to just, be there when we're needed. And so that's what I was kind of like, no matter how I'm feeling, that's kind of what I want to carry throughout with my season. So I'd say
Yeah,
one word to describe it as consistent.
consistency. Yeah, I think a lot of the time, especially at the high school level, um, everybody wants to run fast. Everybody wants to run PRs, and you almost kind of judged on that as well.
Hmm.
But and I think in college, you're more. It really is your consistency of how you can produce on a team, how you can be that guy. Is like you said, like your team could count on you. Like you're gonna run sub 17 today, and it's just that's what's gonna happen. Grayson's gonna do it. Um, I think that's just so overlooked at the high school level, and it's such an important piece. Like because not many people are like that. Not many people can just consistently be counted on for. you know, again, maybe not the greatest result, but a good solid run every single race. Um, and that's so important. That's so important, especially at the high school level.
Mhm.
Track season. That's getting to track. 201 for the 8 PR. Obviously, super close for that sub 2. We talked about like not really having a kick, but like, dude, you got some wheels, man. You definitely got some wheels. Um, but that like that 2 barrier is such a
Yeah.
it's like an iconic barrier. It's kind of like breaking 16 for the first time. It's an
Mhm.
iconic barrier to do. What do you think you kind of need to to break that barrier?
Um, I really just think that it's gonna take a consistent winter conditioning because um going in there this past year, I had all of this stuff going with like passing out and then just going with like different doctors and stuff like that. And so what they had kind of said was, okay, like this isn't safe because like you're passing out when you're running, but then around February I also started passing out in class. So then they're just like, hold on, we gotta like stop on this. But obviously I need to start training at some point. So whenever all my heart stuff came back fine, they just kind of said like, all right, well, you can kind of ease into this, but it's gonna have to be heart rate restricted to kind of stand at that 160 threshold. But at that time, it was like I couldn't just like I was. Oh, I'm so sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Yeah, my heart was just like pumping every time I would go out there to run, even just like 10 flat, 10:30 pace. And so it was my whole winter conditioning was like, all right, I'm gonna go out there for 2 miles and I have to pretty much walk the whole thing because my heart rate keeps going up. And so we get to March and I'm going into our first meet with like a 2 week base. So I really just think like having that good consistent conditioning this winter is really just gonna like, the fast times are gonna come with it.
Yeah. I know we keep going to the word like consistency, and I was talking to another dude last week, and like that really is the word. It's just being consistent with training, and obviously some cards don't fall your way, but that is definitely needed. It's funny though, because again, like you talk about again, like I go back to like not having the greatest kick, but you didn't even do the 32. Like, do you not like the 32? What's the mojo about
I I
8 laps on
I
the track, man?
I do not do the 32.
Why not?
Uh,
Like, have you tried
um,
it like at all? Like in
yeah,
any
my
race
coach,
ever?
yeah, my coach had me do it freshman year, and it was really bad headspace with it, and it was just like not it for me. And I always had way more fun in the mile and the 800, and so then he always just kind of joked around with me. He's like, "All right, well, you got one. You got to give me one." So I'll do like 1 2 mile, per season, getting that in just to make sure like I can get the um and whether or not it's like a workout or anything, just trying to get like that kind of workout in. But I mean, uh, no, to me it's just like it's just long. I've just never really been a fan of it.
Yeah, if yeah, 8 laps on the track is pretty long. I've done I since you're saying the 32 is long, I'm sure you've never done a 5K on the track either.
So no,
That is long, man. I've done a 5K on the track a couple times. Um, Never racing, but like just did it solo. And it's something, man. It's tough.
yeah,
It's a tough run. 12 laps, a little on good to college. You're gonna be doing even more.
oh yeah, yeah. That's good.
The
It'll be fun, but looking at it might be or it'll be an adjustment.
Yeah, definitely for sure. You look at the 800, because that's really the only thing go off of with no 32. You look at the 800 and you look at the 16. The 16, honestly, I would say is a little slow. It seems a little slow for you. Like I think you're honestly more of a 422, maybe 420 guy in itself, especially with a 201.8. Like, because again, you got leg speed for sure. Was it just not like you just didn't have like everything perfect in a race?
Yeah, just. I think it was just trying to bring out what I was doing in workouts later in the season out onto race day. But it was like just kind of just having that mental battle. I was just never really quite there. And I mean, I had a race indicator, and like those aren't like totally accurate or anything. But it was just like if you added the times, I should be running a 4:20, which
Yeah,
teammate at state ran like 4:18. So it's not like that crazy to say. But I was thinking like after I ran that workout, I was thinking like, okay, if I can get like a 4:25, I think that's realistic. But a PR, you're never gonna hate on a PR, but it was definitely just I never really was just never got the right hand dealt, I guess.
yeah. That's true. You really you can't hate on a PR. And it's nice to kind of see like again like what you could do per se. I mean, obviously you got to do it, but all
Yeah,
signs indicate towards it. That's for sure. Because
yeah,
that's
it's
the
it's
only thing that really
there.
came out of me. Yeah, it is there. It's 100% there. But then again, like some days it's just not like I can't tell you. Like I was like a 952 guy in high school, and but like when it got to the some of the bigger meets, especially like in the state series, it's like, hey, it was windy. Like nobody wanted to
Hmm.
run fast. Everybody wanted to sit by each other. Like that's how it
Yeah.
went. So it's like when you look at it, it's like, oh, we ran 10:24 to get out of our district meet. It's like, hey, that's what it was, And then you look at like even the state series, you look at some of the times, it's like, well, yeah, just nobody wanted to go. And so I want to talk
Mhm.
about states because obviously you ran the 16 for that. What was the game plan for that? Were you thinking like I guess really it comes down to like what kind of 16 kind of runner are you? Do you like the fast pace or do you like sitting in the back of the pack or like do you like
Um,
letting the race come to you?
yeah, it just kind of, definitely depends on who's in the race. If I'm looking at where I'm seated, if I'm going to be one of more of those higher up guys, I definitely want to be up there and just kind of like sit around the leaders. And, I think of my 16s more as like broken eights, I guess. I know people just kind of like think about it as like separate 400s. Whenever I remember I had like my best race sophomore year, thinking about it that way, and I just like I get across at the 800-meter mark, and I'm just like, all right, I just got to do this again, but I just got to turn the gas up. And so I think definitely kind of going out, just getting like a good feeling, getting good in stride, and then just kind of see what I can do after 800 meters in is kind of been the strategy going into state. Just trying to make sure. Really, the only thing I was just going in with it at the state meet was, me and my coach talking about like he texted me the night before, and he was just saying like, it's crazy to think that we're actually here because looking back in February after conversations that we were having, you know, I didn't think that I would be racing at state. So that's a blessing in itself. So I think the only mentality with going in was just like, you know, it's been a wild ride, so let's just leave it all out there.
Yeah. Yeah, full send it. When especially I mean the 8 is like super super quick. You really don't have time to think. And the 16 kinda, I mean you have a little bit, but you still have to make those like split second decisions if you're gonna go with a pack or if you're gonna hold off on it. Um what like in those kind of situations where it is like, hey, the packs they picked up the pace, like they're going. Um to you, is it just instincts that kick in of like what you need to do, or do you almost like assess the situation super quick and kind of tell like, okay, they're going, I don't feel right, I'm holding back. Like,
Mhm.
how does that kind of all work out for you?
Yeah, 800s I learned kind of early in high school that it's like if you're going to think about the 800 too much, then you're not going to do well. So anytime I step on the line for 800 now, because pretty much now in any heat that you're going to be in, especially in these faster meets, like y'all are all running basically the same time anyways. So like you might as well get up there with the leaders. So now I just kind of like it's just instinct. Like I got to get up there in the front of the pack. I got to try and you know get out in this lap, first lap fast, so I kind of even have a shot at, and which honestly, like, maybe breaking two isn't, on the brain necessarily during the race. You're trying to obviously get that win, get the points for the team. But it's like, trying to get a fast time out of today, like, we gotta gun it from the start.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's interesting because there is it almost seems like it really is like just instinct reaction to go, especially again when
Mhm.
you see somebody maybe make a surge on you. It's like again you because you
Yeah.
have to be so quick with it. You're either gonna go or you're not gonna go. Um, Obviously we talked about kind of a slow start to the track season and
Mhm.
kind of obviously picking it up towards the end. Was there any reason you didn't want to do any like postseason meets, or was it just like I just want to shut it down and focus on cross?
Yeah. The team is really excited about cross this year. And then by the end of track season, I was just like wore out. And I mean, not only that, but it's just kind of like, not really having the track season I wanted, didn't really qualify for any of these bigger meets anyways. So it's just like you know, taking my rest time to, get some rest, get ready for cross. That way, we can just like, go out and hunt this
Yeah,
fall.
yeah. For for your break, I'm assuming have you started training already?
Yes.
Yeah. How long of a break was that? 2 weeks, a week, three, four,
Yeah, I did 2 weeks. Yeah, a
two
typical two
weeks.
week break.
Yeah, that seems to be the going rate. 2 weeks. And so when you like start, obviously you start now. How long have you been training for? Week, 2 weeks,
I think this is third week back, I
third.
believe.
And are you
I
guys
think I
just
started
doing?
first week of June.
Are you guys just doing a lot of base miles, or what? What's kind of the training looking like right now?
So right now, I started off I think I started off at 28 miles, working my way up to 50, and then just kind of like, getting those good base miles in, slower runs, and then kind of just working on like, getting the core in, stretching in, strides, kind of working on all that kind of stuff early, and then just getting in like, little like not difficult workouts by any means, but just like, little like tune up conditioning things that can just will help us later in the long run getting that aerobic fitness going.
Yeah, I think it's always interesting to hear like the training aspect of things because I think everybody does it differently, with some like intertwined training here and there. With your cross training, um, I'm always curious because it seems like a lot of the guys do yeah like there seems like they're running 50 miles. Um, Most of the elite guys are doing that. Do you feel like you need to run high miles, or do you enjoy? I mean, it seems like obviously it seems like you like higher miles, but have you ever tried low miles? Like, what's the long run up to for you?
I say longest long run, it's probably 12. But then again, I've never been like, because I mean, I don't even run the 2 mile anyways. But I mean, like, it's obviously different during cross season. But yeah, I've always just kind of never been like one of these like crazy 60-mile a week and like the deep of cross country season guys. My body could not handle that. But yeah, definitely like sticking around like those like 45 range and then
Yeah.
getting those like, like getting doubles in a couple times a week. It's kind of like, getting as many miles on the leg as possible. And then just kind of like as for our team, that's kind of seemed what really worked last year, kind of towards the end of the season, whenever we like, started, really picking it up at the county meet was, like these kind of, I guess the longer mileage weeks that we've been doing are really starting to pay off.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, like, because I think again, like nowadays too, like running running low. I remember there was this one runner. She ran like 20 miles a week or like 15 a week in college and won like national titles. And like, now
It's
cross
crazy.
trained a lot, but yeah, but
Yeah,
it's crazy.
obviously.
I'm like how that wasn't around when I was doing it. Like I was running, yeah, like crazy miles, doubling every day, or not every day, but most days. We had a in the summer, the seniors have like one week where it's kind of like a tradition, but they do a 100-mile week. and so we
Oh man.
doubled every day almost, and then had like a pretty solid long run to make it up. But yeah, it's like the 100 mile week, and I'm like, you look back at that now, and you're like, dude, there's nobody even close going to 100 mile week. Like, why even
Yeah.
do that? Like, what's the point of
Yeah,
that? You know, like
exactly.
tradition is tradition, but still, like, what's the point?
Yeah.
um, so kind of to wrap things up, because I do want to talk about cross still a little bit, looking at next year. And I know obviously we talked about summer training and what you're doing right now, but I do
Hmm.
want to mention like your team is so deep as far as
Hmm.
like of a program. Like it just,
Yeah.
you're lucky. You're so envious of how good of that is. Um, do you? I guess is the goal to be a top team every single year? Is that like, I don't want to say the motivation, but is that like, and I don't want to say it's expected of you, but is it almost like an
Mhm.
expectation to be a top level team every year because you guys are so deep, and that is a kudos to you and your team and your coaches and the whole staff.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing we definitely talk about, and it's definitely a frequently brought up thing around our team, but it's definitely by no means kind of like an expectation, but it is one of those things where it's like, we can kind of look back at those teams and we've been like, we've had such a deep roster for so many years now. And I mean, this year it feels like more than any other year because I mean, like I think the last time my coach was talking about it, we have 70 kids signed up for the summer conditioning roster, which is yeah, insane
Insane,
compared to my
dude.
compared to my first year when I was the only seventh grader, which is like thinking about how much has changed is just like insane. But like, we definitely I think back a couple years ago, having that county and region winning streak was definitely a huge motivator for us where it's like, it's an around here on at our home course, we know that, we don't play around here. And this is like it almost kind of feels like a state meet in a way where it's just kind of like, this is like a big deal. And as we can kind of take that mentality and we take it to every race with us, where it's like, a lot of the really competitive North Carolina teams, we're just like, like sure, we might like on the on the sheet it might have written us off, but there's no telling that we could just all have a really crazy day because we all know the kind of work that we put in for this, you know?
Yeah, and yeah, and I got two more questions here. Um,
Mhm.
and it goes kind of into that. It goes into rankings. So you're ranked
Mhm.
15th individual returning, and first as a team for 5A Division One. Do you guys look at those rankings at all, or is it just like taboo? Don't pay attention to it. What kind of, like, as a team, do you guys see that?
Um, yeah, I think I probably there are some younger guys that probably pay attention to it even more than I do. But I mean, that's kind of how it's always been for me. I feel like I've always benefited of just kind of like well, more on like the individual side of things, because I mean, like I'll tell you just for like looking at those rankings for the state like ranked first in the state, like we're beyond locked in, like we're ready for this. But just kind of more on the individual side of things, I kind of always just kind of like to focus as like kind of more of no kind of I don't want to, expect all state out of this. I don't want to expect, like being state champion or just like any of the kind of like time based thing. I just kind of want to, get out there and just kind of see what I can do that would be best contributed for the team. But I mean, so I would say that I don't really pay much attention to individual rankings at all, but like we definitely, that's definitely a poster on the wall for those team rankings. It's a goal that we're chasing.
Yeah, and the as much as I love rankings because it's just, it's nice to see where everyone's kind of at. They are never guaranteed by any means. I've learned that the hard way running because you expect something and then it goes completely sideways. So I think like
Mhm.
it's you always got to take it with a grain of salt, but it's also good to know like, hey, like this is an expectation, or this is the team we're gunning for, this is the person we're gunning for, like this is what's gonna kind of make the difference. Last thing I
Mhm.
really want to talk about, because you mentioned it, like you ran in middle school on this team. Now
Mhm.
you're leading the team. You're leading the team. How like that has to be like just like completely full circle of like holy crap, I was just the little guy with three other middle schoolers or two other middle schoolers, and now I'm like I'm the I don't want to say the face of the franchise, but you are, man. You're the face of the franchise. You're leading the team. Like how is that? Is it kind of surreal in a way, or like because you go through so many
Yeah.
teams and different faces, you know?
Yeah, a little bit. I definitely it doesn't feel that way. I definitely don't feel like I'm just kinda like, there's no way I'm, like, the oldest guy here kinda thing. But, yeah, I definitely think it's, like, a great thing to see just kind of, like, how I felt like I can positively impact our team culture just because of, like, looking at, like, how many more guys we're getting on this team compared to whenever I started out and just that type of deal. And so I definitely try to, strive to be that good leader for our team. I mean, I guess you have to ask them. That's, um, I definitely take pride in that. I want to be there for my teammates.
Yeah, man. That's definitely probably one of the coolest things, especially to see just the growth of the program over the years from when you first started to now. Yeah, man. Hey, wish you the best of luck. Definitely want to keep in touch. We'll definitely, hopefully, I know we'll probably be at a few meets this year together, so I'll keep an eye out for you, and definitely want to get you back on it, and we can talk a little bit more of how the season's going and all that jazz, man. But like I said, I appreciate you coming on, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's be on again. Thank you so much.